Parshas Vayeshev, in Mikvah USA, it says, when Yosef was sold, Vayakam, Banav, Ubnoisav, for Yaakov Avinu, Lenachmai, to comfort him, to be Menachem Avel, Vayemoin Leisnachem, and Yaakov Avinu was not ready, he declined to be comforted. So the Rechaim HaKadosh asks, what happened? Where do we find Benoisav Shel Yaakov Avinu? What happened all of a sudden that the daughters of Yaakov Avinu appeared on the scene? We don't really talk about them too much. So he says that the children of Yaakov Avinu want to show Yaakov Avinu what a large family he has. And to relay the message, since you have such a large family, don't take it to heart that one of your younger children was killed. It's pretty natural, it happens, and be comforted. Vayemoin leisnachem. Yaakov Avinu, his message was, Yosef was not the ordinary child. You could bring me a large family, but no one really was like Yosef. As the Pasuk tells us, V'Yisrael aves Yosef, mikol vanav, kiven zekunim iloi. And he was special. He was special in his kedusha. He was special in his level of purity and spirituality. Vayemoin leisnachem. He declined. When Yosef went down to Mitzrayim, and he had the Nisayin, he had the test of Eshes Potiphera, of the wife of Potiphera, and he was already on the way to do the chet, he was on the way down the slope, as we say. And he saw the tzura of Yaakov Avinu. Says the Nesiv Shalom, seeing the tzura meant that he remembered that Yaakov Avinu believed in him. He remembered the love that Yaakov Avinu had. He remembered the binding and the kesher that he had with his father Yaakov. And that kept him back from sinning. So too, we have to realize what an impact parents have on children. So through their kesher that they have with the children, that's what keeps them back from sinning. Therefore, it says the same word as it says Vayemoin leisnachem. It says Vayemoin Yosef. Yosef kept himself back from sinning. He declined to sin. Because Vayemoin, because Yaakov Avinu did not become comforted, he was not misnachem on Yosef because of the special qualities that he felt and the special kesher that he had with Yosef. That special kesher kept Yosef back from sinning. His son, the Darkei Noyam, the Slonim Rebbe Shlita, explains Mechiris Yosef. He says usually when someone has a test, he wants to come out clean. He wants to keep his record clean. But if his record is already not so clean, he takes it till the end. Meaning, let's say he'll fall in a little. Someone starts, let's say for example, someone starts talking some Lashon Hara, and then he realizes in the middle, it's Lashon Hara, but I spoke already. It's over. And he finishes speaking the conversation. But someone that means it l'shem shemayim realizes that he's take the eye out of the picture. It's not my record over here that has to be kept clean. It's the tsar and the pain that I'm causing Hashem by speaking Lashon Hara. So what happens is he just stops cold turkey. He stops in the middle of the conversation because he realizes if I talk further, then I'm being mitzar Hashem. Yosef HaTzadik, it says, he went in Lases Tzrochov. That's one pshat. That means he went in to start to do the chet. But still, why? Because he couldn't contain himself. The type of him was too strong. But he kept on fighting and fighting and fighting. He didn't just give in because if he would have just imagined the way Yosef HaTzadik looked at himself. He's the apple of the eye of Yaakov Avinu, the holiest of the holies. And he finds himself in such a situation in Mitzrayim, a 17-year-old boy, and he looks at himself, I'm finished already. I'm already a Mitzri. That's how he looks at himself. I'm already part of these guys. Look what's happening to me. So fast, I'm already finished with my father's derech, my father's kedusha. But no, Yosef HaTzadik didn't do it for himself. He was doing it for Hashem, and he told Hashem, I'm going to fight till the end. As long as I have any koiches in me, I'm going to fight till the end. Another thing he says, Yosef, we say that Oishes Potiphera saw in astrology, in the Kochavim, in the Mazalos, that there will be descendants from her and Yosef together. Yosef probably knew the same thing. I'm sure she told him also. And he probably had the same chachma that she had. So Yosef HaTzadik knew that there's going to be descendants here. What would a regular person think to himself? I'm doomed anyway. I'm doomed. I'm definitely going to have descendants from her. This has to happen. And he's already on the way in doing the sin, but he keeps himself back. Why? Lazis nachas ruach la Hashem. I don't want to be mitzar Hashem. He's telling Hashem, I don't know what the astrology says. I don't know what the mazalis say. I don't know what happened till now that I maybe fell in a little. But I know one thing. I'm not going to be mitzar Hashem more than I have to. And he stops cold turkey in middle. Therefore, even though we find in the Gemara that there were other people that had the nisyanis even greater than Yosef HaTzadik, but Yosef HaTzadik, he's the tzaddik yisoid olam. Because of these amazing facts, a fact that he had the back of his mind that I'm doomed anyway. The fact that he was already started on the downhill slope, and b'chol zos he kept himself back. That's the gadlus of Yosef Tzadik Yisod Olam. Chanukah. We'll start with basing on Or Gedalyo from Reb Gedalia Shor. We all know Reb Gedalia Shor was a brilliant tzaddik, a brilliant goyin, Rosh Hashiva in Toivadas. When Reb Meir Shapiro was in America, Reb Gedalia was mishamish him. He went together with him. He helped him out. He was a bacher. And he became very close to Reb Meir Shapiro. Reb Meir Shapiro was the one from Chacham Lublin, the Rosh Hashiva, and the founder of Chacham Lublin in Lublin, in Poland. And Reb Meir Lublin was one of the most brilliant people in the generation. And he said that Reb Gedalia Shor, he's in America, he didn't meet anyone in his level of genius. And in the whole world, a few people. Reb Gedalia Shor was an incredible person, a very humble person, very down-to-earth, humble person. I still remember him in Toivadas. So we'll talk something about his Chanukah and his words. Before we do that, let me just say a short dvar halacha. The Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, he asks, we have a lot of times he sees Israeli people that are here in America. So what's the halacha? The halacha is, let's say, if someone, it's Chanukah, I'm talking about, if someone, let's say, a man has to go away on business, or he's traveling overnight in his car, so he could be the Yoitze Hadlakas Ner Chanukah with his wife's lighting at home. Ner Ishu Beisai. His wife could light at home and he's Yoitze. The question arises, what happens when it's two different time zones? Let's say like here in Eretz Yisrael, where when Chanukah comes in today, let's say now, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, it's 8 o'clock at night, and a person at 2 o'clock in the afternoon became Chanukah in Eretz Yisrael. I mean, I don't mean exactly. Let's say 12 o'clock in the afternoon became Chanukah in Eretz Yisrael. So what happens is the person that's in Chutz La'aretz and his wife is in Eretz Yisrael, so she's lighting the candles at home, and by him it's not even Chanukah yet. Let alone it's not yet night. It's not even Chanukah yet. So can he be Yoitze with his wife's Chanukah Lecht or not? Says Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, yes he can. Chanukah is a mitzvah that the Chachamim gave to us on Ner Ishu Beis, it's on the house. And once his house was Yoitze, so he's Yoitze with the house. Even though it's a different time zone. The Minchas Yitzchok, the Rav Weiss of the Rav Yerushalayim and the Eid Achreidus, he disagrees. So either you sinned without a bracha, or maybe some say you have in mind not to be yotze with your wife. Another short dvar halacha, we know that when we have, let's say, someone comes to you and says, listen, I need some lashon hara from you. I need a different lav. Put on this klayim, or any lav in the Torah. A person is mechuyev, a person is obligated to give away all his, anything that he owns, all his possessions, in order to save himself from being over a lav. A mitzvah essay is not like that. Let's say someone comes to a place, he gets stuck in Japan, and a guy wants a daled minim, and someone has the daled minim and tells him, listen, if you want the daled minim, you got to give me $100,000. So then we see, if the person owns $500,000, and $100,000 is 20% of his possessions, then he has to give the $100,000. Because till a chaimish, you have to give. A person has to give a chaimish in order to be mekayim a mitzvah essay. But if, let's say, the person only owns $300,000 and the seller of the daled minim is asking for $100,000, he doesn't have to give it. It's more than a chaimish. What about Chanukah? Says the Pri Megadim, it's the same thing. Comes Rabbi Kiva, and Rabbi Kiva says, no, we find a halacha by Chanukah that the ani has to sell his malbush, his coat, or his overcoat, or his suit. He has to sell in order to be mekayim ner Chanukah. Why? Because of Pesume Nisa. Now, that coat for the poor person is more than a fifth of his possessions, many times. So we see from that Chanukah, even though it's only a mitzvah of our sages of the Rabbanon, it's not minat Torah, it's not a biblical commandment, it's only a rabbinical commandment, we still say that you have to give more than a biblical commandment because of Pesume Nisa, because we want to tell everyone about the miracles that Hashem does to us. So that's why you have to give even more than a fifth of your possessions in order to be Mekayim Chanukah. That's what Rabbi Kiva says in the Aruch HaShulchan Paskins like that a person has to give whatever he has in order to be Mekayim Chanukah. Now, we hope that it shouldn't be a practical halachic shaila, such a question, but it just shows how important the Chanukah is. We'll say one more dvar halacha is like this. Those that are learning Daf Yomi, it says, we're learning now Reb Chanina Skana Kehanim, which is a sugya Masechta Pesachim that pertains to the Taharos. Today we don't have that, but we hope Mashiach will come fast, and we'll have these halachas of Taharos. That means that anything you're not allowed to eat, truma, anything that becomes tamei, you're not allowed to eat. Now, in the Gemara that we're learning now, it says that any mashka, a liquid, there is a shita, there's a deya, there's a certain mandama that says that mashka, liquid, is not makabel tomei. It can't become tomei minat Torah, only midrabanan. Biblically, it can't become tomei, only rabbinically it can become tomei. So the question arises, we know that in the Beis HaMikdash, we usually say that a liquid, anything that's only a rabbinical obligation, we don't say in the Beis HaMikdash. Beis HaMikdash ain't shvus b'mikdash, and whenever we're not machmer in the Beis HaMikdash, Isurei d'Rabbanan, we're not machmer in the Beis HaMikdash. So the question arises, what was the ness of Chanukah? How was the shemen? We say every night, Yevanim nikbetzu alai, v'timu kalach hashemanim. They were metama all the shemanim, all the oils they were metama. How were they metama the oil? The oil does not makabel tumah. According to this deya, according to this man the Amar, it's not makabel tumah. He can't become tamei minat Torah. So what was the nets of Chanukah? They looked for the oils, they couldn't find, they were all tamei. How did they become tamei? So the Tshuva Me'ahava, which is a student of the Noda B'Yehuda, he says that we must say that since it was winter, I don't know if he says this point of winter, but he says since it was winter, it got frozen, it got jellied, it got gelled. And anything that's gelled is not considered a liquid anymore, and once it's not a liquid, it could become Tamei Minat Torah. So what we have to say is, he says, that the oils in the Beis HaMikdash, it was in Kislev, it was winter, it became gelled. And once it became gelled, it doesn't have a din of a mashka. So once it doesn't have a din of a mashka, it could become tamei. It doesn't have a din of a liquid, it could become tamei. And Tosfos says, and we paskin as the Mishnah Berurah in Siman Kuf Nun Ches and Arachaim, paskins that mashka that becomes, even it's gelled and it liquefies, it becomes liquid again, is still not considered a mashka. So that's why it was makabel, it was makabel tumah, and even after it became liquid again, it still had a tumah on itself. That's the v'timu kol ashmanim. Rav Schoor Zecher Tzadik Levracha, he says like this. The Gemara in Brachos says, Am Rabbi Yoshia, Kol Amerapa Atzmai, whoever becomes lazy b'divrei Torah, ein boi koyach lamoid b'yoyim tzara. He's not going to be able to withstand when it comes a harsh day. Shenemar hisrapeisa b'yoyim tzara, tzar kechika. Amar Rav Ami bar Masnar mashmu aflo mitzvah achas. Even though he's becomes lazy of doing one mitzvah in the Torah, hisrapeisa mikol makom, even one mitzvah. Uberashi sham. Rashi says like this: Im nisrapa mimenu kushabal liyadai v'loy chashlis asek ba tzar koichai. You had an opportunity to learn, and you didn't learn because of your laziness. You weren't mekayim a mitzvah because of your laziness, so you got a problem. When you're going to want to be mekayim that mitzvah, it's not going to be so easy. And the Mashal says that even if you learned, but you didn't learn with all your effort, you didn't put all your effort into it, you just learned, as a sidebar, then it's still considered merapa atzmai midivrei Torah. What do we see from this? A person is blessed with certain potential, with certain koiches hanefesh in his life. And we have to see to utilize all the gifts that Hashem gives us. A person has a mind, a heart to serve Hashem with tefillah, a mind to learn Torah. He has a body to be mekayim mitzvahs, to do chesed, etc. And he doesn't utilize the gifts that Hashem gives him to serve Hashem. So when he wants to do it, it's like someone that's sick in bed and didn't get out of bed for a couple of weeks or a couple of days even. When he has to start walking again, he needs rehab, he needs therapy. Did you ever see anyone in therapy or in rehab? It's not easy. You got to really work to stretch those bones again, to get those bones to use again. The same thing is in your koiches hanefesh of rochnius. If you didn't learn, if you didn't utilize your koyach haneshama, your koyach hanefesh for avodas Hashem, so it gets atrophied. It goes to sleep. And when you got to get it up, you need a lot of work to use it, to do it. Chanukah, the Bach says that the reason why the Yevonim, the Greeks, had a koyach to put all these harsh decrees on Yidden, not to be able to mekayim mitzvahs milah with Shabbos, Chodesh, was because the Yidden, the Jews in the Beis HaMikdash, weren't enthusiastic about the avodah in the Beis HaMikdash. And since they didn't utilize their koiches and their opportunity to serve Hashem in the Beis HaMikdash, so that's why v'timu kol hashmanim, the Yevonim were able to come into the Beis HaMikdash. Because kol hamerapa atzmei al divrei Torah, if you didn't utilize, if you were lazy, then you're going to lose your opportunity. And they lost their opportunity until the Yevonim came and went into rehab. They went with all mesiras nefesh, even though it was tough for them. Rashi says in Vayeshev there were 13 people against the armies. They went with mesiras nefesh. And if someone goes with mesiras nefesh, you can get back your koiches. Not only that, sometimes we know that there were people, boys or girls, that were very scholastically very weak. But they kept on, they were persistent, they had the will to break it through, and they were blessed from heaven with such a siyata d'shmaya, with such a, like even unnatural hatzlacha in their learning, in their avodas Hashem. Why? Because if we say that someone who has the koiches hanefesh and doesn't use them out, they go to sleep. So someone who even doesn't out the koiches hanefesh and overextends himself for avodas Hashem, so he gets extra koiches hanefesh. He gets a bonus that he wasn't blessed with at birth. And that's what happened Chanukah. Chanukah, the Chashmonaim overextended themselves, and they were blessed with miracles of Lamala Miderech HaTeva. Rabbinim says, Rabbinim of Pshischa, Al Taima, the pasuk says, Al Taima ma shahayu yamim rishonim tovim me'ela. Don't say that the earlier days were better than that. Kiloi mechachma sha'al tazois. That means a person finds himself in a certain situation and he says, you know, when I was younger, things were much better, things were much easier. Or, you know, 3 generations ago, things were much easier, things were different. You didn't ask this question out of wisdom. Says Rabbeinu Pshischa, a person is born with certain koiches hanefesh, but as we spoke, if a person doesn't utilize his koiches, he loses them. So that's what the pasuk is saying. That they were really better. No, it's just that you didn't utilize it. You didn't have these of your own wisdom. Your koiches hanefesh wasn't your own wisdom. Sha'alta zois, they were borrowed from Hashem. Everything we have is borrowed from Hashem. And if we don't utilize the way we're supposed to, and we're lazy, and we have our priorities are not set straight, and we choose other things above avodas Hashem, then we lose the opportunity. But we could always get it back. By overextending ourselves, by showing Hashem that we really regret our ways. The month of Kislev. Kislev, it says in Sefer Yitzira, says that Himlich ois Samach b'Shina. Samach was made king over the sleep. Says Rav Schoor, Shina means not a physical sleep. It means like Yoshev Batul Ki Yoshen Dami. Someone who's asleep and doesn't use out his koiches for avodas Hashem. He's not up. He's in Tardema. He's in Shina. He's in a deep slumber. He doesn't realize that Hashem is sitting and waiting for him. So Kislev is the Zman. Kislev is the time that we can get you out of sleep. Samach stands for Soimech Hashem l'chol hanoiflim. Hashem Yisbarach is ready to pick you up. You've fallen on the floor asleep. Hashem is extending His hand to pick you up. So he says like this, Rav Schoor. Reb Tzadok of Lublin says that every ois, every letter, if you want to know what this letter symbolizes, look at the first time it says it in the Torah. The Gemara says that if someone's dreaming and he sees the letter tes, it's good for him. Toiv is good for him. Why does it stand for toiv? Maybe it stands for something else. Because if you look, the first time it says in the Torah the letter tes, it says it by toiv. So that's how we know that tes stands for toiv. If you look at the samach, says Reb Tzadok, at the first time it says it in the Torah, what does it say? Soivev. He surrounds. Surrounding is an inyan of shmira, of watching. It's a makif. It's a surrounding. Hashem watches us. He takes us around. He surrounds us with protection. He surrounds us with love. He surrounds us with support. Hashem supports the fallen people. And that's what happens in Chodesh Kislev to the ones that are asleep in Avodas Hashem, to the ones that their priorities aren't straight. Hashem is ready to support you. We just got to wake up. Chanukah is also an inyan of renewal, his chadshus, chinuch. Chinuch is like starting a person out, starting something. When we say Chanukah Sabayis, it's chinuch. It's starting out the Beis HaMikdash, starting out a house, starting out the life of a person, chinuch of a cotton. That's something that we need to have on a steady basis. His chadshus, renewal. And that's what happens on Chanukah, and that's our avodah on Chanukah. The opposite of renewal is regilis, routine. Says the Chedusha Erim, Ad shetichle regel min hashuk. The zman of Neiros Chanukah is from nighttime, Ad shetichle regel min hashuk, till literally it means that no one is outside, the feet is not outside. The feet of people is not outside. Says the Chiddush Harim, regel is grammatically means regilus. The routine, tichle regel. Take away the regel, the regilus. We need his chadshus. We need haragel b'neir. Ragel b'neir means someone that's used to neir. What's Ner? Ner is the light, the chadshus, the renewal. Haragel b'ner, that's what Chanukah is all about. To have this chadshus. Toivel b'shemen ragloi. Toivel b'shemen ragloi. Shemen is the fire of Chanukah. Let the fire of Chanukah light you up. Let the Chanukah, a fire, let you see the world in the correct way, in the way that we're supposed to look at the world. Let the Chanukah, the light of Chanukah, make you happy. When there's light, there's happiness. And when someone's sleeping and you turn on the lights, he wakes up. Let the light of Chanukah wake us up from our deep slumbers. And that is what the Chashmonaim did in the Beis HaMikdash. They took away the routine. They started new, with a newness, with the eschatshus. In Chachmei Lublin Yeshiva, there was a great mashgiach there. His name was the Kozhlukov Rav, the Eretz Tzvi, a profound genius. Chaf Hei Kislev, he says, the Mishkan was finished, ready to be started the avodah, the Melechas HaMishkan, to start doing the avodas HaMishkan. And what did Hashem say? No, don't open up the Mishkan. We're going to wait till Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So the Jews were all worked up. Their hearts were burning with a desire. Nediv Leiv, their hearts were open and ready to serve Hashem. And Hashem says, no, not now. We're going to wait a couple of months for Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So what happened to that fire in their hearts? Says the Kozhlukov Rav, that when Hashem kindles a fire and He doesn't let you put it into anything, then it stays on for Lanetzach. The same thing happened by the Akedah. Avram Avinu had the fire of Mesiris Nefesh. He had the fire of being withstanding the test of shechting his son, of killing his son. He had that fire in him, and Hashem didn't let him do anything with the fire, not even to make a mum. Al tishlach yodcha lanar. Don't even touch him. Don't make him anything. Not a drop of blood. What happened to the fire in Avram Avinu's heart? It stayed on eternally. Lanetzach. So tonight, Chafei Kislev, that fire that was burning in Klal Yisrael's heart when the Mishkan was finished, burns on for all of us, for each and every one of us. And we have to realize that there's a fire in our hearts. Ve'emunascha baleilos. In the darkness of the nights, there's emunah, there's faith. The Alexander Rebbe, when he was on the way to Auschwitz, and he had Jews around him, asked him, Rebbe, tell us something that can strengthen us. We know where we're heading for. Give us a chizuk. So he said, Ve'emunascha b'leilos. Why does it say Ve'emunascha? And your emunah, we're talking to Hashem. Is it Hashem that has emunah, or is it the Jews that have emunah? We should have said Ve'emunatzeinu b'leilos. At which he answered, Hashem has faith in Jews. He knows his nation. He realizes what his nation is all about. I trust you that in the hard times you'll withstand the nisyonis. Follow the light in the night of Chanukah. It's a light we light at nighttime to show that we can kindle up even when we can light up even when it's in the darkness. And it's lamata me asara tfachim, it's below asara tfachim. It's on the below. It's in the, even someone that's not on a high level, on a very low level, Hashem bends down to us to light us up. And each one of us has a pachtor. We all have that, the bottle of oil, the pure bottle of oil, the bottle of pure oil that was found. We all have that in our hearts. The pureness and the fire that burns in each of everyone, even though we don't feel it. But we have to believe in it. May Hashem help us. I'll just finish with a story. I saw Reb Tzvi Zilverberg. He related a story. There was a boy, a teenager, that went off to derech, an OTD. And he was like, he fell real deep, and he came to America, and all his friends were goyim. And one night they were out. It was the holiday season, and they went to a bar, and they drank. And they told the Jew, hey, you're a Jew. It's Chanukah today. Why don't you light your candles? So he said, no, I gave that up long ago. No, you're a Jew. And they were laughing. Go light your candles. Come on. And they brought some candles. And he took the candle. He didn't have a choice. They told him to beat him up if not. And he took the candle. And he lit the candle. And he started crying. And he couldn't stop crying. And they were laughing at him, his friends, and he just couldn't stop crying. And he was crying, and the dam let loose. And then the goyim got sick of it. They said, we don't want a Jew boy that cries. They picked him up, his friends, and they threw him out of the bar. And he picked himself up and went back to Eretz Yisrael. And today has a beautiful family, and a religious family, and a happy family. So we see the koyach and the strength of the Chanukah lecht. We should all become Tameim biyad tahirim. Each one of us has a Tamei in us. Each one of us has a Risham in us. We just have to hand them over to the Tzaddik in us. The Tzaddik in us should take over. The Torah in us should take over. The Oiskei Sorisecha in us should take over. Happy Chanukah.